Brace yourself, I'll take you on a trip down memory lane. All the way back to Christmas morning 2006, when a young schmuck was opening one of the most important Christmas presents of his life, a Nintendo GameCube. His first ever home video game console. Now, I say his, but he had to share it with 2 siblings. Sharing! Not that that was much of an issue, because they all unanimously agreed upon which game was the best to break in the new system. That's right, Super Monkey Ball 2. Into the wee hours of the morning, this young schmuck and his siblings took turns rolling down hills, falling off edges, breaking through ribbons, and just having a blast. Having a ball, if you will. It was in the afternoon/evening that young schmuck decided to try out the other game his parents had gotten him for Christmas, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. He popped that bad boy into the disk drive, made it all the way through the opening logos, credits, titles, what have you, and he was greeted with Now, the young schmuck didn't really care about the music at this point, so he got all the way through the starting menus and made his way to the hero story. Up until this point, young schmuck's experience with the Sonic franchise was pretty much non-existent. It was very minimal. Basically, it amounted to these little bite-sized handheld pixelated games that you would get in your Happy Meal or cereal box. Bottom line is, schmuck up until this point had very little experience with the Sonic series. Nevertheless, he got past the opening cutscene and got right into rolling around at the speed of sound. He had places to go, had to follow his rainbow. You couldn't stick around, he had to keep moving on. Just what lied ahead, there was only one way to find out. So he just kept on moving ahead and got through City Escape, the very first level, including that very persistent, very aggressive, very malicious truck. Then he beat the very first boss, that flying robot, and after that he was greeted with the next cutscene. Now of course, young schmuck thought Sonic the Hedgehog was cool. I mean, this guy was blue, he had spiky hair, he was really fast, he had an attitude, he was destroying robots and skateboarding / not really skateboarding all the way through an entire city. Man, this guy was cool. And if young schmuck thought Sonic was cool, well, he was not prepared for what he was about to encounter next. In this cutscene, both Schmuck and Sonic himself were introduced to Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, if Schmuck thought Sonic was cool, Shadow was way past cool. I mean, this guy, he had this cool looking green gem thing. He was black and had red highlights on his spikes / hair. He could teleport around. Seemed like he was faster than Sonic. He had a cool voice. He defeated Sonic in one go. He was taunting Sonic. Sonic could barely keep up with this guy. And when young Schmuck found out a while later that he could play as Shadow the Hedgehog, oh, game over. All this to say, at this point, at age 8, young Schmuck thought Shadow the Hedgehog was the coolest fictional character of all time. And now, almost 18 years later, not a lot has changed. Young Schmuck, who was terrible at platformers at the time, spent the next several months playing through Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. He beat the hero story and the dark story and the final story, and finally he beat the game. And then he beat the game again. And again, and again, and again. In a couple instances, he even beat the game in just one day, which he thought was pretty impressive at the time. I don't think it would be an exaggeration to say that Sonic Adventure 2 Battle is the game I have completed the most times in my life. Maybe Portal 2 and Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance are up there. Honestly, if you ask me with my rose-tinted goggles on, I'd say Sonic Adventure 2 Battle is a game with very few flaws. At least very few flaws that I can't overlook. Now with all that preamble, all that introductory information, all of that spiel out of the way, I'm here to talk to you because I just saw Sonic the Hedgehog Movie 3 in theaters for the second time. And I want to talk to you about it. I thought the first Sonic movie was okay. I thought the second one was great, a huge improvement. And I was so excited for this third movie because I'm sure most of you know the after credits scene of the second Sonic movie, we saw Project Shadow. Oh, how I wish I could recreate the feeling of seeing that after credits scene for the first time. At that moment, I was taking all the way back to when I was 8 years old and found out I could play as Shadow the Hedgehog for the first time. I say all this to explain myself. To all of you, why I honestly can't talk about this movie or rate it or give it a number score from an objective point of view. Up until this point, the Sonic movie series had done such a good job keeping the characters' personalities consistent with how they are in the video games. So I was beyond excited to see Shadow the Hedgehog and seeing his story brought to life on the big screen for the first time. And when I found out he was being voiced by Keanu Reeves, John Wick, Neo, Batman himself, the hype just kept building. I don't think there could have been better casting. Now before I start gushing and gushing about this movie and explaining why I think it's amazing and why it's just about everything I could have asked for, let me get my few gripes out of the way. One of which is a pretty major gripe. And actually, I'm about to get into spoiler territory for this movie, so if you haven't seen it yet, I'm going to put a time on the screen that you can skip to avoid the spoiler talk, all right? Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I want to take you all back into the not too distant past when I said to someone that if Shadow the Hedgehog at some point yelled the words Chaos Control in this movie, it would be an 11 out of 10 movie, perfect, no notes, all other flaws are moot. First time I saw this movie in theaters, I was waiting. I waited so long. I waited the entire almost 2 hours of this movie's runtime to hear Shadow the Hedgehog yell the words Chaos Control. This is the thing that Shadow the Hedgehog says. He holds the Chaos Emerald, he holds it, and he shouts Chaos Control. I just want to hear him say this thing, which is so cool. I'm turning stupid. I'm letting nostalgia take over my brain. I'm very sorry. I thought at multiple points, this is when they're gonna have him say it. This would be the perfect time to have him say it. Shadow the Hedgehog, the guy who invented the words Chaos Control, never says it in this entire movie. That's the thing that he says. He's the character. This is the character, Shadow. He says the thing, Chaos Control. How are you gonna not have that? Upset me far more than it should have.
You don't say.
Maybe they're saving it for the fourth movie and they're gonna have him say it then when he comes back. I wanted Keanu Reeves to shout Chaos Control. He never did. So this movie can't be an 11 out of 10. There were a few other issues I had with the movie. For instance, the point where Sonic the Hedgehog says Konichi what? Caused me physical pain. It caused me psychic, mental, emotional, spiritual damage, both when he said it in the trailer and when he said it in the movie.
Konichi wow, wish no.
Another minor issue I had with the movie, the human characters. Look, I don't hate the human characters. I should say I don't hate most of them. I like James Marsden. I like James Marsden's wife. Obviously, I like Eggman, but he's an exception to the whole not liking the human characters thing because he is a Sonic character. But man, when I come to a Sonic the Hedgehog movie, I want to see Sonic and his friends teaming up, having fun, doing the whole going fast thing and flying thing and punching thing. That's what I come to a Sonic movie to see. Big issue I had with the second movie is how there's a 10+ minute stretch of time when you do not see Sonic or Tails or Knuckles. It's all just random human characters that I do not care about that much. I don't want to see an entire scene dedicated to them. They can be on screen as long as Sonic and the rest are on screen. I do not go to a Sonic movie to see real human shenanigans. I'm a Sonic fan. I want to see Sonic. Now, that was not as big of an issue for me in this movie because there's only about, 5 minutes dedicated exclusively to humans as opposed to 10+. So they're making good progress. I'd like to see that progress continue on into the future entries into the series. So those are my major issues with the movie. And now I'm going to get into why none of them matter and why I still think this is a 10 out of 10 experience. And I must emphasize, this is why I think this is a perfect 10 out of 10 experience. I mean, I've seen it twice within the span of 3 days. I guess I should probably start with the non-spoilery stuff. And I'm not structuring this in any way. I have not written out a script. I have not organized my thoughts. So I'm going to rattle stuff off out of order as I think of them. And maybe as I edit, it'll make more sense. Maybe not. You'll see. Really like the performances. Ben Schwartz has been killing it as Sonic ever since the first entry. Colleen O'Shaughnessy as Tails. I mean, it's Tails' in-game voice actor, obviously, she knocked it out of the park. Idris Elba, perfect fit for Knuckles, always has been. Really sells all the toughness, really sells all the goofy, dense, dim-witted moments. I mean, all these characters are great whenever they're being goofy, silly, colorful Sonic characters. They're also fantastic whenever they're being dramatic. Knuckles really sells the whole feeling betrayed, but still respectful, still honoring his word, still honorable. He sells that part of Knuckles' character really well. When Sonic's voice, like the Tranquil Fury, when Shadow hits James Marsden and nearly kills him. Shadow himself, fantastic. Keanu Reeves sounds perfect, like I said earlier. And if I'm being honest, I mean, throughout the movie, at times I even forgot that it was Keanu Reeves doing Shadow. I mean, I always knew in the back of my mind, I didn't think it was anyone else, but he just kind of captures the role and embodies it, and I saw and heard Shadow on the screen, and that was excellent. I really struggled to come up with a better voice actor for the Ultimate Life Form. The action is fantastic. It's all flashy and fluid, and it really sells the scale of everything, really sells the powerful hits from Knuckles and from scenes later in the film. I just really enjoyed the whole look of the movie and everything having to do with what I was seeing. Oh, and going back to the performances, Jim Carrey, God bless him. He was already one of the best parts in the previous 2 installments. I guess the film runners figured, what's better than 1 Jim Carrey? 2. Because throughout this entire movie, Ivo Robotnik is accompanied by his grandfather, Gerald Robotnik. I don't think it's a spoiler to say he's in this movie because he's literally in the trailers. Now, Gerald Robotnik, right? The original game, 8-year-old me was terrified of the scene where he shows up because he's just strapped to a chair in front of this dark room with all these scribbles behind him. It was like he was about to be executed. I didn't have this frame of reference when I was 8 years old, obviously, but honestly, I'd say Gerald Robotnik in that scene gave off the same vibes as John Kramer, Billy the Puppet in the Saw franchise. I kind of think the jankiness, the stiffness of Sonic Adventure 2 really added to that atmosphere and to that vibe. All this to say, when I first saw Gerald Robotnik in Sonic Adventure 2 and that scene where he's tied up and being interrogated, it creeped me out. Now, 18 years later, I see why it's pretty silly to be intimidated by a scene like that. Gerald Robotnik in this movie is so much goofier and so much sillier and not nearly as creepy as he was to my elementary school mind. That being said, he's still evil. Seeing Jim Carrey work off of himself is fantastic. They have this extended dance scene in the middle that is honestly one of my favorite scenes in the movie. You would think a dance scene in the middle of the Sonic movie would just be really stupid and just mess with the pacing and would be something I'm not for at all, but that's not the case. I love every scene involving the 2 Dr. Eggmen. Every scene involving them is great. I love the chemistry Jim Carrey has with himself. I'm so glad that Jim Carrey retired from acting except for these Sonic movies. This is just, I guess this is all Jim Carrey wants to do with his acting for the rest of time. If the Academy doesn't nominate him for this performance, they're even bigger cowards and jokes than I thought they were. I love all the scenes involving Maria and Shadow's relationship with her. It's really heartwarming, it's really charming. They could have easily botched it and made it creepy like the human lady in Sonic 06, but thankfully, not the case. It was great. And I really like how they handled her death scene as well. I really love how the movie handles the contrast between Sonic and Shadow, how they both deal with loss. One person took that loss and turned it into a need for revenge, how the other person took their loss and healed from it and held on to the love they had for the person they lost. Really love how we're carrying on the decades-long tradition of Tails getting mogged by Shadow. And I think I talked about all the reasons I love this movie that don't involve spoilers. Now, until this point in the video, I'm going to be talking about the spoiler stuff that I loved. Go to this time frame and avoid the spoilers, or go see the movie for yourself. Go see it. Give this movie your money so that they continue making these spoiler stuff that I loved. In 3, 2, 1. They played Live and Learn. Crush 40, Live and Learn. It is in a theatrically released feature film. Crush 40, Live and Learn. And they played that song as Super Sonic and Super Shadow are flying throughout space. It took every fiber of my being not to stand up and clap like a true autist. That just brought me back to being a kid again, playing that scene for the first time. Can you feel life moving through your mind? Oh, it's fantastic. Hearing Live and Learn, hearing Crush 40 on the silver screen would already bump this movie up to a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. That Super Sonic and Super Shadow, the fight leading up to them teaming up, that was such a good fight. So flashy, so fluid, so incredible. It was given all the grandiosity and impact that it deserved. I loved every second of that. I love them flying up and fighting off the army, fighting off all the robots. I love them flying into and stopping the laser with their bare hands. I love Shadow taking off his inhibitor rings to push the station out of the way. I love Robotnik making the sacrifice. Loved all that stuff. So good, so characterful, so impactful, so much good fan service, and this fan service was earned. They've earned that fan service throughout 3 movies. Just makes you want to go see it again. I just hope they keep moving forward with this franchise, keep making every installment better. I really don't know how you can get better than this, but I'm excited to see how. And of course, the mid-credit scene, we got to see Metal Sonic. Kind of weird to have a bunch of them. I guess once you've already had the angsty, cool, chaos controlling, chaos spearing, black and red Sonic, just kind of takes the wind out of the sails of seeing a Metal Sonic. I still think Metal Sonic's design is so cool. And of course, the moment you see the hammer, you know it's Amy. So cool. Now, obviously, Amy as a reveal, not a fraction as hype, not a fraction as impactful as Shadows was at the end of Sonic 2. But I mean, nothing's going to compare to Shadows. Amy's reveal was still the hypest moment in cinema this year for me. I loved Shadow's characterization. I love how they got right that he's not just an edgelord, he's not just angsty. He has backstory. He's a good person at heart. I'm glad they emphasized that. He doesn't smile much, but that makes it so that when he does smile, when he's with Maria, once he's had his heel face turn at the end, it makes it that much more impactful to show that he's really changed, that these parts of his life, that these parts of his arc are affecting him. He's a little bit edgy. Not so edgy that he won't make jokes. I mean, like the part in the abandoned bunker when he shows up to Knuckles and just goes, boo. That was both intimidating and funny. That moment was just perfectly encapsulates Shadow as a character. I could gush about this movie forever. I've talked about this for so long. I don't know if much of it was coherent or understandable, but I hope I adequately got across all the things I love about this movie, why I think it's the best movie we could have gotten for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I hope this series keeps on going, keeps on getting better with each installment. I think us as Sonic fans are eating so good recently. I don't know if I'm ever going to do another video like this, or if in those other videos I'm going to keep doing scores. But if I had to give this movie a score out of 10, it would be a 10 for me. I know objectively it's probably not a 10 out of 10. It's got flaws, but I thought about it, and the thing is, I don't really care. If you made it this far into the video, chances are you're a family member or a good friend of mine, and I thank you for supporting me. Or maybe you found this video, clicked play, and let it play and forgot about it, and let it reach this point, in which case, still thank you for watching. If you like good movies, if you're a Sonic fan who likes good movies, see this one. And that's gonna about do it. See you in the next video in however many years that takes. Bye.